Perth median house price, $1 million. Hi, I'm Simon Atkins, your brand new apartment specialist right here in Perth. So Perth's outperforming other major capitals with a remarkable 4% increase just in the last quarter alone. So if you extrapolated that out over an entire year, then you'd see a 16% growth rate over that year. So that kind of gives you a little bit of context. So 4% is a lot in a quarter. That increase in dwelling values over the last quarter is the strongest rise in a year. So no signs of slowing down. We've got a severe lack of supply. There's a critical shortage of homes for sale, with listings down 45% from the 5-year average. It's fueling intense buyer competition and rapid sales, and homes are lasting just about 8 days on the market. So that tells us the urgency to buy in the market, which is a record low for Perth, and I'll show you and look into that a little bit later on one of the graphs coming up. So Perth's rental sector is also booming, with an annual rent of units jumping by 7%. So let's have a look on the screen at the change in dwelling values. So as you can see here from Cotality, the time frame over 3 months, 4% as I mentioned. Over the last 12 months, 7.5%. And then the average annual growth over the past decade has just been 5.5%. So obviously most of those years have been during the recovery phase. And of course now that's changing hugely because we have entered the growth phase, and those numbers are becoming much higher. Sales activity through the quarter was estimated to be 6.8% above the 5-year average. And let's just take a look at the days on the market and the listings, where the trend is clearly down. So here is the graph showing the listings and the median selling days. So 2 graphs in one here. The line graph, as I normally show you here, is the median selling days. So you can see over time, since about Jan 2020 here, it's just dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped down to 8. So, and you can see the trend even just over since, this year, the start of this year, the trend has dropped. So market doing hugely well in the last 3 years, but as you can see here, but it's still, we had a bit of an uptick here, but it's come right down to 8. And this is the measurement of how much energy there is in the market, how much demand there is in the market. So it's just a measure of how many days the median time is for a house to stay on the market. And the lower that is, the more demand there is there. And of course, underlying that in this graph here, this like Manhattan graph, we can see that as far as we go back here, we've got 2,398 listings as of October, and then if we come back, it was low here, 2.7, 2.8, but this will be, again, I keep saying this, but this month we've set a new record low in the amount of listings. So pressure on the market. The other thing we'll take a look at is the rentals. So we've got rentals, the rental rates and median days to rent. What I really just look at here is, again, this is kind of the demand, median days to rent, 16 days. And you can see it's been pretty low for quite some time. But in this one here, we've got the median rent for units. And on this line graph here, we've got the median rent for houses. So as we can see, houses has gone a little uptick in the last quarter, and median units have stayed about the same. But when you consider the difference between median house price between a house and the median price of a unit, they're not much different at all, 650 versus 695. So again, it just proves that units are getting a much higher yield compared to a house. So what's fueling the fire? Well, there's several broader economic factors which are contributing to the strength of the Perth market, and I've talked in other videos about the labour issues and the construction costs, etc. So we've got a backlog of things that are really working here.
Also, increased borrowing capacity, so low interest rates have played a key role in supporting housing activity. Strong labour market, so there's a tight jobs market and real income growth, and that's supporting housing demand and borrowing capacity, of course. Consumer confidence is up, there's an upswing in that, so of course purchasing decisions become a lot easier when people feel confident about the economy and what's happening. So as we continue through spring, all signs point to a sustained period of strength for the Perth property market with low stock levels and high demand. The market's firmly in the hands of sellers. So let's take a look now at the Domain median house price.
So here are the Domain numbers for median house prices as at September 2025. So in that last year, Perth is now knocking on the door of $1 million median house price according to Domain. We're at 981,259, as you can see here, and that is an increase from 891,000 from September last year, and that represents a 10% growth factor there. And we can also see that Brisbane and Adelaide have also had very good years to September as well.
So you can see there from that table that we are less than 20k away from hitting 1 million, and that should pop on those numbers by the end of the year. So in contrast, Cotalities, or the old Core Logic, we've changed the name to Cotalities now, latest median house price for Perth that I have is 832,000, which is quite a contrast for that, and that's as of July. And Rewa have 812,000. So that's the latest one from them. So why are they a long way out from the one that I've just looked at? My understanding is that Rewa was probably the most accurate one in terms of it gets, because it's the Real Estate Institute of Western Australia, gets all the sales throughout the state. And I believe some of these other ones don't have exactly every single transaction. So they're probably likely to be a bit more skewed. So I tend to go more with the Rewa one. And then I think that's possibly a little bit more accurate. But we also have to understand that the median is really an estimate anyway, and you don't want to look at any one median and look too much into it, because you can have a lot of high sales at one end of a suburb, which push the median for that suburb up if it's in the higher properties, the better quality properties of that suburb, or if you have a lot of sales in the lower end properties of that suburb, it can pull the median down. So you really want to spread across the lot to really be able to get an idea as to what that truly is. So it's more of an idea than anything, and you want to be kind of looking at it over a period of time so you can see trends. So jobs, strong growth industries, according to the WA Economic Overview, as of August 2025, employment in WA rose by 2.8%, or that represents just over 46,000 jobs to the year end of June 2025. In that same overview, the fastest growing sectors in the year to June 2025 included the property and business services, which were up 41%, which represents 8,500 new positions. Arts and recreation up 36.8%, over 9,000 new jobs. Manufacturing up 23.6%, and that created over 20,000 new positions. And in another breakdown, year to Feb 2025, the electricity, gas, water and waste services industry posted employment growth of 9.6% in that year. So the CommSec quarterly state of the states report says WA is the country's strongest economy, leading in household spending and household finance. So of course AUKUS deal that I did a video on recently, and the critical minerals deal that just got signed with the Trump administration point to huge growth for the state in the years to come. So there's all of this bubbling up for the future here as well. So we're not just talking about this strong growth here now, there's a lot going to be happening in the future. Huge amounts of money being invested, not just in WA, but across Australia, but the great bulk of it is going to be here. So I'm about to do a separate video on that, so keep an eye out for it. So how does all of this affect you? Well, if you're holding onto property, obviously you'll be seeing that value increase substantially, and I believe there's plenty more where that came from. And if you're trying to get into the market, I've done another video a couple of days ago about that which you can access right here if you want to see ways that you can be helped to try and get into the market. So obviously it's challenging for people trying to get their foot on that first rung of the ladder. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.